Guys, when you get in your seat, make sure your bell ringer is the one on top, all right? Name and date at the top. Name and date. I know you probably can't see it, okay? But I'm not going to turn on the lights. I want to make sure you can see it, all right? I want to make sure you can see it, so I'm going to read it off to you. Read it off to you. We'll have 5 minutes to complete this, all right? 5 minutes. Once everybody gets sit down, situated, I'll start the clock. Yes, ma'am? Today is the 27th, 9/27/18. Come on. Hey, grab one of those. One of each. Samaj, I need an exit ticket, bell work, and a worksheet. Alright, the clock is started. Clock is started. Okay, true or false, guys. You do not have to write down the question. Just number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, 2, and 3. All I need is true or false, okay? This is the physical features of Canada that we went over yesterday, okay? Number one, the Canadian Shield is an important seaway that links the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. The Canadian Shield is an important seaway that links the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. Remember, Canadian Shield. Remember what the Canadian Shield was, what it was made up of, okay? After I read them off once, I'm going to go back, okay? I'm going to go back and read them all over with about 1:30 left. I'm going to go back over all of them, okay? Okay, number two. Number two, the Grand Banks stretch into western Canada from the western United States. The Grand Banks stretch from western Canada into the western United States. Guys, once we're all done, I'm going to take them up, okay? We're going to go over together. But right now, give me your best effort, okay? Give me your best effort. Okay, number 3. Newsprint is paper made from pulpwood. Newsprint was the paper made in Canada, okay, made from pulpwood. Newsprint was paper made from Canada out of pulpwood. True or false? Just give me a T or an F, guys, that's fine. As long as I can tell out which one's a T and which one's an F, that's fine. 3 minutes. 3 minutes, I'm not trying to rush you. Make sure your name and date's at the top. Name and date. Okay, going over them again. Number 1, the Canadian Shield is an important seaway that links the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. The Canadian Shield is a seaway. Number 2, the Grand Banks stretch into western Canada from the western United States. Just about 2 minutes, guys. 3, newsprint is paper that is made from pulpwood. Newsprint is paper that is made from pulpwood. Raise your hand if you're not done. Everybody done? Okay, take them up early. Take them up early. Stop the clock, and I'll take them up. Yep. Pen and pencils down, guys. Pen and pencils down. Guys, I'll take attendance off these bell ringers, okay? If you were here to do the bell ringing, then I'll count you here. Yes, ma'am? Okay, here we go. Anybody's paper that I did not get? Anybody's paper that I did not get? Okay, number 1. The Canadian Shield is an important seaway that links the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. False. What is it? St. Lawrence River. Remember, guys, the St. Lawrence River was the waterway that connected the Great Lakes to the Pacific Ocean. Remember, I told you we went up, right around the Hudson Bay, up around Maine, into the Atlantic Ocean, okay? Number 2, the Grand Banks stretched into western Canada from the western United States. False. What was it? Rocky Mountains. Good. It was the Rocky Mountains. Remember, guys, the Rocky Mountains stretch from the western United States into Canada. All right, 3. Newsprint is paper that is made from pulp. True. Remember, guys, the newsprint is cheaper paper, right? They were in such an abundance of pulp that it was easier for them to send that to the U.S., China, all over for their newspapers, right? Newspapers. All right, everybody's textbooks. I want everybody's textbooks open to page 150, section 2, okay? We're going to read these together. We're going to go over each main idea together, okay? Page 150. Okay, 150. Some of you may not have a 150, okay? But just listen along, okay? Listen along. Aiden, start us off right there with Native Canadians. Guys, yesterday we talked about the physical features of Canada, just like we did when we started off with the U.S., okay? Today, I want to do the history and culture, okay? Today, history and culture. We go from physical features to history and culture. How was Canada founded? Who were the first to found it, okay? Who were the first to found it, okay? And how did they get started? Economy-wise, okay? Economy-wise, what were their resources, stuff like that. Guys, I want you to pay attention to how geography fits into this idea, okay? How is geography playing a part in this, okay? Aiden, start with Native Canadians on page 151, guys. Read along with it.
Indians and the Inuit people were the first natives. Over the years, some of these native people divided this agreement that was known as the First Nations. One group lived on primitive vast interior plains and were still bison. In the far north, the Inuit adapted to the regions of trade where farming was impossible. By hunting seals, whales, walruses, and other animals, the Inuit could feed, clothe, and clothe themselves. Today, about 400,000 Indians in the Inuit live in
Okay, so let's adapt geography into that, guys. Let's adapt geography. All right, the First Nations were the Cree and the Inuits, right? Okay, it says that the Cree were skilled bison hunters. In the far north, the Inuit adapted to the region's extreme cold weathers. Guys, farther north, further away from what?
The equator.
The equator, which means it's going to get what?
Colder.
Colder. Good. So they had to adapt, right? They had to adapt to their geography because it got colder. Okay? It says here that by hunting seals, whales, walruses, and other animals, natural resources, right? They were able to eat, clothe, and house themselves. Guys, they built their houses out of these animals, furs, skins. They were able to clothe themselves because they were adapted, guys. The animals were adapted. The people weren't, so they had to use the animals, okay, to help them adapt to the colder weather. All right, European settlement. Just like in America, guys, the Europeans were the first, okay? Just like in the 13 colonies, the Europeans, Christopher Columbus, remember we talked about that last week? They were the first, okay? European settlement. Other people migrated to Canada from Europe. The first Europeans in Canada were the Vikings or the Norse. They settled in Newfoundland Island in about AD 1000, but later abandoned their settlements, okay? Why do you think they abandoned their settlements? Just give me an example. Why do you think they abandoned their settlements? Because they were getting old? Okay, maybe. Because they found something newer? That's a good one. Maybe they found something better, right? If you guys the more we talk about the Vikings, we're going to learn that the Vikings, they settled and lived in climates really, really, really cold. Maybe even colder than what they had in Canada, right? So maybe it wasn't cold enough for them. Maybe the food sources wasn't enough, okay? They wanted to go find something else. Maybe they wanted to go take over new lands. We don't know that, okay? But we do know that they settled there for a short amount of time. All right. Soon, more explorers and fishermen from Western Europe began crossing the Atlantic. They began crossing the Atlantic. So, guys, when traffic starts to speed up from America to Europe, what's that create? Trade route, right? Trade route. That's like us going to Walmart, the interstate, busy all day. Guys, that's how that trade route got started. From Europe to America, that trade route was like a highway. Okay? So once that gets started, what's going to happen? Once they start going to and from, what's going to happen? They're going to get to know each other a lot better. When they get to know each other a lot better, what's going to happen? They're going to start trading. They're going to figure out that they got resources here that they didn't have in Europe, right? So they're going to start trading. All right? Trade quickly developed. There we go. Trade quickly developed between the Europeans and Native Canadians. Europeans valued the furs that Native Canadians supplied. So the Europeans did not have these furs in Europe, guys. So when they came here, they found out that how they adapted to the land was these furs, okay? How they adapted was because of these furs. They wanted these furs, okay? But in order for them to give them these furs, what was going to happen? They're going to have to give them something back. That's how trade works. I give you $1, okay? You better go give me a Powerade. I'm not just giving you $1 for nothing, right? Alright, so trade quickly developed between the Europeans and Native Canadians. Europeans valued the furs that Native Canadians supplied. The Canadians wanted European metal goods like axes and guns. Okay, axes and guns. The axes probably helped them cut down all the trees, right? The forests in Canada were in such of an abundance that they used the pulp. Remember we talked about the pulp? Pulp, okay? They used that to cut the trees down. It probably sped the process up a lot, right? Guns. Guys, these people never seen guns. They've never seen the furs, they've never seen the guns, so they're probably going to trade, okay? New France. Here we go, New France, top right. France was the first European country to successfully settle parts of what would become Canada. The French established Quebec City in 1608. They called their new territories New France. Guys, New France was the first establishment in Canada. I know they said that the Vikings and the Norse stayed there, settled there, but they did not stay there long, okay? They didn't stay there long enough for them to call it a settlement. New France was the first settlement. Okay, at its height, New France included much of eastern Canada and the central U.S. New France was important for several reasons. It was part of the French Empire, which provided money and goods to French settlers. It also served as a base to spread French culture. France had to compete with Britain, other European colonial powers for control of Canada. Alright, going on down. All of these efforts protected French interest in New France for 150 years until the British finally defeated the French. Although it did not last, New French shaped Canadians' cultural makeup. Guys, remember what we talked about. When you take somebody that's been in an area for 150 years and you move them out, just because they're gone, what stays? Their cultural ideas, right? They lived there for so long, okay? Say we took everybody out of Pine Bluff. Just an example. Say we took everybody out of Pine Bluff, okay? Not a living soul in Pine Bluff, but the buildings and everything is still here. Interstates, Walmarts, the housing is all still here. We drive through Pine Bluff, won't we be able to tell what kind of culture was here, even though there's no people? That's exactly what they're talking about, guys. When they left or got kicked out, okay, for 150 years there was nobody there. But they come back through there, they can still tell that their cultural identity was still there. Good, flip it over. Flip it over. Alright, British conquest. Now we're starting to go over Canada. Now we're starting to really search, okay? We're here. We're starting to establish trade, cultural. We can tell who was here, but we can't tell where all they've been. So in the 1700s, we start to discover that, okay? In the mid-1700s, the rivalry between France and England turned to war. The conflict was called the French and Indian War. Guys, the French and Indian War. Okay, the Indians paired with who, you think? You got the French. So the Indians paired with who? The British. Good. So who are the Indians and the British going to fight? The French. Who do you think is going to win that fight? The British and the Indians, right? Because the Indians know what? They have guns now because of trade, but what else? They're good marksmen. They know the land, right? You don't come with somebody, that's why it's so hard to go play football in somebody's home stadium, because they know. They practice there every day. Okay, these Indians live there every day, okay? They know the land. Alright? A small number of French went back to France, however the great majority stayed. For most of them, few changes occurred in their daily activities. They farmed the same land, prayed in the same churches, and continued to speak French. Few English-speaking settlers came to what is now Quebec. Okay, now going over to where provinces are created, divisions of the country. Okay, it tells us that Nova Scotia and New Brunswick was created where many of the British settlers lived. So now they're starting to settle in new areas. They're finding new places to settle. All right. Come here, read creation of Canada. Separately. Parliament. Dominion. Okay, so the motto of this new thing, to get away from the British, the motto, okay, was from sea to sea. What two seas are we talking about? Atlantic and Pacific. What is the significance of those two? They're on each side of Canada, right? From sea to sea. They wanted Britain out. They wanted all of it to themselves, all right, under one identity. They wanted it to be called Canada, but a cultural diversity without Britain ruling them, right? Just like in America, okay? We gained our independence, right? That's what they wanted there. They wanted to gain their independence from sea to sea, from Atlantic to Pacific, okay? Creation of Canada. Let's go to culture. Guys, we're going to take a break after culture and answer a few of these questions, okay, on our worksheets. All right, go with culture.
Canada's people reflect the history of richness and French colonized rule. In addition, the country has experienced waves of immigration. The country is home to a great variety of people who belong to different ethnic groups and cultures. Although individual groups still keep their own cultural ways, many Canadians are trying to create single nationalities.
Good. So they realize they have many different cultures, right? But they don't want many different identities. They want everybody under one identity, right? With the understanding of many cultures. Guys, in America, what are we called? United States of America. But how many different identity or cultures is there? How many different cultures? There's a ton, right? But we are all called United States of America, correct? No matter what background we come from, we all live in America. Therefore, we are under the identity of the United States of America. All right, everybody, get your worksheets. Get your worksheets out. You need one, Corbin? Okay, here's one. All right, worksheets. Section summary, right there under history. All right, the first question on the right side in the box says, circle the names of Canada's first people. Okay, guys, on the first line, it says the Indians and the Inuit were the first people to live in Canada, right? The Indians and the Inuits were the first people to live in Canada. That's all we know. Guys, who do you think, how do you think we know that? Who do you think studied the land to know that? Geographers, right? They dug, right? They found past artifacts or whatever to let us know that the Inuits, okay, that the Inuits and Indians were the first to live here. But it's almost self-explanatory because there were so many Indians in America, okay, when the Europeans got here. We have documentation that when the Indians got here, when the Europeans got here, that there was someone else here, okay? There's someone else here, all right? So circle the names of Canada's first people. That would be the Indians and the Inuit, right? All right, then, Canada's first permanent European settlers. What was Canada's first European settlement? We just read it a while ago. What was it? New French, right? New French. So, read on down. They learned to survive in the harsh, cold climate by hunting seal whales and other animals. The Vikings were the first Europeans to come to Canada, but they did not stay. Remember? They didn't stay here. They just showed up, stayed for a little bit, and left. All right? European explorers and fishermen came in the late 1400s. Europeans soon began to trade with native Canadians, okay? The French built the first permanent settlement in what became Canada. They called the land they claimed New France. So circle New France. Circle New France because Canada's first permanent European settlement and settlers were of New France. New France. Okay, how did the French and Indian War affect the French colonists in New France? So the first part of that question, guys, is asking us how did the French and Indian War affect the French colonists? So we need to find what? The French and Indian War, right? Okay, then after that we're going to figure out how it affected the French. So, right here it says they called the lands they claimed New France. In the 1700s, Britain defeated France in the French and Indian War. So there's the first part of the question, the French and Indian War. What happened to the French after that? What happened to them? Okay? Although the British took control, most French settlers stayed. So there you go. Most of them stayed there, right? Most of them stayed there. Okay? Their way of life, what? What's it say? The way of life did what? Did not change much. So they stayed there. Okay? They stayed there. Most of them stayed. Some of them left. I'm assuming most of them stayed under British rule, right? Because they weren't going to let them stay and still believe the same beliefs they had before, right? So they let them stay under British rule. Most of them stayed in their belief. They let them keep their beliefs, okay? What is a dominion? What is a dominion? Good. An area of influence. Good. So we're looking for dominion, right? Looking for dominion. When the British passed a law making it a dominion, a territory or area of influence. So right after dominion, we have a comma, okay, and then it's going to tell us what a dominion is, right? It's going to tell us what a dominion is, guys. It's the last line down there. Last line. All right, flip it over. Flip it over. All right. Here on the right, it says circle the countries where some of Canada's immigrants came from prior to World War II. Prior. What does prior mean? Prior to something means what? Before, right? It means before. So the paragraph there that says after World War II, we're not even going to look at that because we're wanting to know the countries that were prior. Okay. So culture. Canadians come from many places. Some are descendants of early French and British settlers. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, many immigrants came from Europe and the United States. There's two. There's two right there. Prior to World War II, European, and United States immigrants. Okay, there's two. We have more. Hang on. Most farmed, while others worked in mines, forests, and factories. Some hope to find gold in Canada's Yukon territory. Many Asian immigrants have come to Canada, especially from, here you go, circle these, China, Japan, and India. China, Japan, and India. You should have 5. Canada, you should have Europe, US, Japan, China, India. Okay, after World War II. After World War II. Alright, go back to our book. Go back to our book. Movement to cities, page 154. Movement to cities, 154. We're going to discuss what happened after World War II. Discuss what happened after World War II. Alright? Go ahead. Movement to cities, yes. 154, right there on the top, right side.
After World War II, another wave of immigrants from Europe arrived in Canada. Many settled in Canada's largest cities, for example,
Toronto.
Toronto has become one of the most culturally diverse cities in the world.
What does that mean, guys? Culturally diverse. Aiden? There's many types of cultures in that area. Okay, good. Keep going.
The Europeans were joined by other people from Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, and
Particularly?
particularly Asia. Asian business people have brought a great deal of wealth to Canada's economy.
Good. So there you have another culture coming in. All right, giving to what Canada's economy already had, right? So it says Asian business people have brought a great deal of wealth to Canada's economy. There you have a new culture coming in, right? You have a new culture coming in, establishing wealth, giving them more. So Canada's growing, guys. Canada's economy is growing. Canada's population is growing, right? All right. So here we go. Many Canadians have recently moved from farms to the country's cities. What do you think made these people move from farms to cities? What?
For
Animals, maybe. Farms to cities. Farms, they're moving from the farms to the cities. Homes, maybe more homes. Jobs, there you go. Industrial businesses, guys. Industrial boom is beginning, okay? When trade begins, you start trading building materials. I'll put it as that. Iron, okay? Iron ore, minerals, resources. This stuff, guys, people are figuring out how to build, okay? Figuring out how to make more of. Okay, so when you start building these big factories and stuff, you have people that live way over here and the factories here. The job's going to run out here, right? So they're going to want to come here to where the jobs are being created. So the population density is going to change. Guys, think about the geography of the land. Think about that. More animals are being left alone, right? Probably more wood and stuff like that's being left alone since people are going to metal fabrication factories, stuff like that. Okay, but more stuff is being built. Remember when we talked about how the physical geography of the U.S. was mainly affected? We had examples right here in Pine Bluff, didn't we? Building what? Houses, roads, interstates, right? All of this stuff affects our geography. Guys, in the 1800s, that interstate wasn't there, was it? So how do we know what it even looked like? It was just trees, right? So when people build new stuff, the geography of the land, the physical geography of the land gets affected, right? Okay. So, move to cities in Ontario, go into the next page to find jobs. Others move to Vancouver, British Columbia for its good job opportunities, mild climate, and location near plentiful resources. Guys, people are coming down out of the Yukon, okay, Yukon far left, coming down from the top. Why? Why will they come down from the top? It's way warmer, right? It's warmer closer to the United States, correct? Okay, so they said they moved south because of milder climate. There you have again how the physical geography affected where people went, okay? It is affecting how they move around. Resources such as oil, gas, potash, and uranium have provided wealth to many cities in the western provinces. However, the political and economic center of power remains in the cities of Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal. Okay, Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal. Back to our worksheet. Back to your worksheet. All right, flip it over. True, false section. True, false should say 57 at the bottom. True, false. Okay, we just went over this. Just a second. Since World War II, Quebec has become one of the most culturally diverse cities in the world. False. Toronto. Remember? Culturally diverse. Remember when I asked you what that meant? And you said many cultures? Toronto. It was Toronto. The next one. Quebec and Ontario are examples of Canadian colonies. True. Good. True. Guys, on number one, if it's wrong, right, where it's unlocked Quebec and that's wrong, put Toronto on the underline so we know what the right answer is. Number three, the Canadians built a transcontinental railroad to connect British Columbia to eastern Canada. British Columbia was far west. Pacific Ocean, true. To the Atlantic. True. Sea to sea, good, true. Sea to sea, good. Canadians built a transcontinental railroad to British Columbia with eastern Canada. All right, 4. Toronto remains a mainly French-speaking region. False. Good. Why?
Because it is culturally diverse.
It's culturally diverse, right? There's not just one predominant language, right? It's many languages, many different languages. Good. All right, 5. A dominion, such as the Dominion of Canada, is a territory or area of influence. True. Good. We know that from the front page, right? We know that from the front page. All right. Number 6, it says write 3 adjectives or descriptive phrases that describe the terms. Okay. First one, British Columbia. What do we know about the British Columbia? Western part of Canada. Good. What was built to and from there? Railroad, right? So there's 2 right there. We know that the British Columbia is in the western part of Canada. We also know that the Transcontinental Railroad was built from British Columbia to the eastern part, from sea to sea. From sea to sea. Good. All right, second one. New France. What do we know about New France? New French colony was the what? First settlement in Canada. The New France was the first permanent settlement in Canada. Good. First permanent settlement in Canada. Guys, we're probably not going to have time to write all 3 down, so let's just make sure we have one. Let's make sure we have one. New France was the first permanent established colony or settlement in Canada. Good. Good. Okay, 8. Canadian Pacific Railroad. What do we know about the Canadian Pacific Railroad? Yes, that it was built from west to east, right? From sea to sea. That's one thing we know about it. Who built it? Nope. Nope. Many Chinese immigrants come to work on the railroads. Immigrants help Canada's economy grow. Chinese came from China just to help with the railroad. That was one of their main strong points, was to work on the railroad. Okay? What did the railroad change? They're trading, good. Also, they're what? Their physical geography that affected the land, right? You got a stretch from the western part, Pacific, all the way to the Atlantic. Guys, imagine how many animals were affected by that. Homes of animals, right? It went through all the land, all right? Vancouver's Chinatown on the front page of your worksheet. Oh, I'm sorry, on the back of the front sheet, on the back. It says, in recent years, Canadians have also moved from farms in rural areas to large cities like Vancouver and Ontario. From Vancouver, or like in Vancouver and Ontario. So what does that tell us about Vancouver? In the previous sentence, what does it tell us? That it's a what? It's a rural area, right? So when people began moving from farms, away from their farms to the cities, industrial cities, Vancouver was one of these. Vancouver Chinatown was one of these. So that's what we can write down. We can write down that Vancouver Chinatown, we know, was a rural area. R-U-R-A-L. Rural area. Not royal. Rural. R-U-R-A-L. Vancouver Chinatown was a rural area. We know that. Because people moved away from their farms to there in Ontario. It says many of these people moved to these cities to find jobs, job opportunities to benefit their families, right? More income, okay? All right, last one, First Nations. First Nations. Very first page, very first few sentences. Indians and the Inuit were the first people to live in Canada, okay? Over time, some native people divided into groups known as the First Nations. That's what we're looking for, right? First Nations, okay? What were they? One, the Cree. The Cree, one of those groups, lived on the plains. So it tells us who it was, and it tells us where their established settlement was, in the plains, okay? In the plains of Canada. Two, we need another one. They survived by hunting bison. The Inuit, lived in the far north. Far north. They learned to survive in the harsh, cold climate by hunting seals, whales, and other animals. Seals, whales, and other animals. So we have the Cree and the Inuit. We have where they lived and how they survived. Okay? We have where they lived and how they survived. Right? Good. Good. Alright guys, once you get that written down, once you get your exit ticket out. Once you get that written down, take your time, you got time. I'm not rushing you, just make sure you get your exit ticket out, make sure your name and the date's at the top. 9/27/18. 9/27/18. Don't start yet. Don't start. We're all going to start together when I start the clock. Everybody ready? Did everybody get that written down on the worksheet? Alright. As soon as I start this, I'm going to read you the question, okay? I'm going to read you the question. Okay, you got 5 minutes. Listen. Exit ticket. Just one question. Who were the Inuit and how did they survive? That's the last thing we talked about, guys. Who were the Inuit and how did they survive? Remember, you had the Inuit and the Cree, right? You had the Inuit and the Cree. So tell me where the Inuit lived and how they survived where they lived. Tell me what they did to survive. Who were the Inuit and how did they survive? Who were the Inuit and how did they survive? I'm going to come around and be taking up your worksheets, okay? Who were the Inuit and how did they survive? How did they survive? You got 3 minutes and 30 seconds. You got plenty of time. Plenty of time. Who were they? How did they survive? Raise your hand if you are not done. Okay, we got time. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Raise your hand if you are done. Good. Minute 30, guys, minute 30. Hey, when you finish, make sure you close your books. When you finish, I'm not rushing you, make sure you close your books, okay? About to get ready to go to lunch. Start. A little over a minute. Got a minute, guys. I'm taking them up. Got a minute. I'm taking them up. Remember, it's the last thing we went over. Two of the first people. You had Indians. You had the Inuit. Okay. Your books are closed. Okay, guys, remember. Alright guys, remember the Inuit were one of the first, right? One of the first to be established in Canada. Where did they live?
On the far north.
Far north. So how did they survive?
They got hunted by
Hunting what?
Seals.
Seals, whales, because those animals were adapted, right? Those animals were adapted, so they killed those animals to adapt themselves, right? Good. So the Inuit were one of the first. Where did they live? The north. How did they survive? By killing those types of animals, eating, building houses, shelter, and clothing. Okay? Good. Guys, stand up, push your chairs up. We're gonna line up at the door and go to lunch. Make sure your chairs are pushed up, guys. I don't want to make sure you're busting their noggins. Remember the last two out? Last two out, turn it off. And the lights off, shut the door. Quiet in the hallway, please. You good? You alright? Sleepy? You get no sleep last night? I didn't get no sleep last night either, but I'm here. I'm talking about. We'll push through it.